Welcome to r/am_either_butthole, where this mum wonders if she's in the wrong or not for letting her 12-year-old child swear at an old woman. Am I the butthole for letting my child cuss at an old woman? My husband is staying with his mother. Both are in isolation. Thank goodness my kids and I aren't. I had to do an emergency grocery run because the delivery in my area was backed up. I took my kiddos, 5, 8 and 12, with me. The 8-year-old is on the spectrum and has trouble in places like grocery stores. I gave him an iPad with cellular and over-the-ear headphones. He should be good to go. He doesn't like loud noises or strangers touching him. While in line, my 12-year-old is a lot of help with his brothers, so he's trying to help me with the 5-year-old throwing junk food in the cart. I decided to go to the cashier's checkout, and then the line was long. 8-year-old's all good, just chilling, watching his cartoons with his headphones, until this old lady behind us gets upset over something. I'm ignoring her, but my 12-year-old grabs me and says, "I think we have an issue." The lady starts going on about kids today and technology. She's trying to get my 8-year-old's attention. I don't want to startle him, so my 12-year-old moves between them. My 5-year-old is looking at more cookies. The old woman told me my kids were rude, ignoring her. She taps on my 8-year-old and I pull him aside. He looks up from his iPad and takes his headphones off to see if something is wrong. I'm trying to get his headphones back on, and the old woman says these types of things are for at home only and that I need to teach my kids to interact in public. She tells my 8-year-old that he's old enough to know better than to act like this, scolding him loudly, publicly, and in the middle of the store. My 8-year-old starts to cry, the first sign of a meltdown with him. Then my 12-year-old turns to the woman and says, "You stupid bitch, he's autistic." While I usually would tell my 12-year-old off, I didn't this time because I had more issues to deal with. The old lady wants to talk to security and starts making a scene about my kids, screaming that they called her a female dog. I end up leaving my full cart of food there and leaving the security, who tried to stop me, but I was saying that I had to get my 8-year-old to the car. He has autism and he's gonna have a major meltdown. My 12-year-old talks to security and tells him about the old lady in line. OP, no, you're definitely not the butthole in my opinion. What your child said, yeah, it was a little bit vulgar, but it was completely fair and it was completely accurate. She was being a female dog, buying into somebody's business that's just got nothing to do with her. She has no idea what's going on there. Like, why get involved in the first place? And yeah, I'm sorry, but she was being a and your 12-year-old called her out, sticking up for his brother. Good lad. Look, don't get me wrong, if your 12-year-old starts swearing at nice people, that's a bit more of a problem, or just swearing in general. But in this situation, perfect response. She deserved it. Now for our next post. Am I the butthole for not letting my ex pick up our daughter a day early so she can see her dog before it's put down? I have a 9-year-old daughter, Claire, with my ex-husband, Brian. Brian has Claire Wednesday through Saturday, and I have her Sunday through Tuesday. When we were together, shortly after Claire was born, Brian got a dog. This dog was not young then, 6 or 7, and now must be ancient. Claire loves this dog, and I've tried to indulge that as much as possible, and the days I have her, Brian will let Claire video call with him and the dog, which I think is a bit extreme, but to each their own. Brian contacted me this morning saying that he has to put the dog down tomorrow and asked if he could pick up Claire a day early so that she could say goodbye. I told him I didn't want to do that, and I didn't think it was a good idea to go against court-ordered custody, and since he wouldn't watch her when I had a work emergency, I don't see why this was different. He said I was being overly dramatic and petty, and it was cruel to not let Claire see her dog. I don't think I'm wrong, because we've already set the standard that we're sticking to the court-ordered custody, but he sent me several texts saying that I should let Claire be there, and he's even told her what's going on, which IMO was overstepping, and I don't think it's right for him to contact her behind my back about something involving our co-parenting. Claire is also upset at me now, and I'm wondering if I'm being a butthole now that she knows. So, am I the butthole for not wanting to let him pick her up a day earlier than usual? Yes, without a doubt you are. I'm sorry, like, what does one difference make realistically? I know you want to stick to the court order, and that's absolutely fine. It makes sense. I do the same. But have a little bit of heart. Your daughter's dog is about to be put down. Let her see her dog one more time, for the final time, surely. The day itself isn't really that important. Your husband gets her for an extra day now. You can have her for an extra day next week. That's fine. I'm sure you can get to some sort of compromise there. But come on, not letting your own daughter see her dog for the final time just because of a court order and you wanting to stick to the rules, nah, that's heartless. Now for our third post. Am I the butthole for not being Irish? I have Irish great-great-grandparents. I live in England, as have all my relatives since 1910. I've recently started to have an American live with me, and she introduces herself to people as Irish. Now, I know Americans do this weird thing where they believe they are where their ancestors came from. We Europeans find this hilarious, but what are you gonna do? Recently, I've been researching my family history, and she got involved. She is now saying that I should go around saying that I am Irish, otherwise it's disrespectful to my ancestors. The problem is, I am not Irish. I am English. I don't know Irish culture. I've never been to Ireland. I am English. I would argue that she isn't Irish either, since she's never been to Ireland nor knows Irish culture, but still, she can introduce herself however she wants. She is getting incredibly upset that I'm refusing to say I'm Irish, and she's even started to introduce me as her Irish friend. I told her to stop, and she got annoyed. I mean, where do you draw the line on ancestors anyway? Should I introduce myself as African because all my ancestors started out in Africa? No. So, am I the butthole for not saying I'm Irish? Not at all, OP. And actually, I completely agree with you. It is a weird thing when people who have no association with a country say that they are from that country just because they have some heritage from that country. Being from a country and having heritage from that country, I think, are two different things. None of your relatives have lived in Ireland since 1910, 100 years ago. Like, you're not Irish, you're English. And I think you know that. It's a weird one, though, isn't it? Like, for me, my granddad is Mauritian, and I therefore am technically Mauritian. I guess I'm quarter Mauritian, but I would never go and say to somebody that I am Mauritian. Yeah, I'm part Mauritian, but I'd always say I'm English. I've lived in England my entire life. Like, I've been to Mauritius a couple of times, but that's not close to saying that I am Mauritian. That's not right. Like, I get it. Be proud of your family's culture. Be proud of their history. That's fine. I'm proud to be quarter Mauritian. I actually am. I think it's pretty cool. But if you're saying you're Irish when you're definitely not Irish, and you're trying to force someone else who isn't Irish to also say they're Irish, yeah, that's just a bit weird. Now for our fourth post. Am I the butthole for laughing in my husband's face? So, I, a 32-year-old woman, had been married to my husband for 6 years. Before we got married, he had me sign a prenup stating that our financials would always be separate, and the only thing we'd share was an expense account to pay for household-related fees. The reason for this was because he was making pretty good money and I was in graduate school. So my financial situation was pretty bad, but I signed nonetheless because I understood he wanted to protect himself. Anyway, fast forward to now, and I've been out of school for about 4 years, and I make more than 3 times as much as he does. I never asked how much he makes, and he's never asked me either. Anyway, 2 weeks ago, I told him that I was thinking about buying a new car, as the one I had was really old, since I'd had it since my undergraduate days. He wasn't really interested, and just told me to get whatever I liked. So, a week ago, I decided to make the plunge and get an Audi. I was pretty excited, as I'd always wanted one. At the time, my husband was on a business trip. He got back yesterday, and I showed him my car. He was really happy for me. However, later, he asked me what my monthly payments were, as the Audi was pretty new. At this point, I told him that I'd made the purchase in cash and that I had no monthly payments. He was taken aback and asked with what money, and I answered that I made more than enough money to be able to afford it. He didn't talk after that, and I thought that that was that. However, after a few hours, he came back to me and told me that he thinks we should void the prenup. Now this is where I might be the butthole. I laughed in his face and asked him why I would agree to that, and his answer was that we're married and that we should share our financials. So I told him that we've been married for 6 years, and yet we've never shared financials, and I was fine with what we were doing, and his sudden change of heart was actually very suspicious. He called me a bunch of names and stormed out and didn't come home. And I guess he told his family about our fights, and they called to berate me and say how he supported me while I was in school. He didn't, and now I'm wondering if I was the butthole. Alright, so this bloke wanted the prenup initially because he was earning more money than you, so to protect his finances. And now that he's realized that he's actually making less money than you, he wants to void the prenup and therefore have access to your finances. It doesn't make any sense. And actually, you know what? It does. This guy is a wrong'un. And by the way, I don't want to say this because it's a bit harsh, but it really doesn't sound like you two should be together. That's such a big thing, like not wanting to share his finances when he thought he had money than you, and now that he's realized he has less, he now wants some of your, like, that's mad. A big red flag is all I'll say. definitely not the butthole. And now for our final post of today's episode. Am I the butthole for enforcing my house rules on my wife's brother? My brother-in-law, Sean, moved in with me and his sister after my father-in-law passed away a few months ago. He is the private type, and he keeps himself to himself. He goes out and never says where he's going or how long he'll be out for, eats at random times during the day, wears earbuds while me and the kids are sitting with him. See, all of these are uncool behaviors and a bad influence on my children. I've already talked to Sean about certain house rules I have and how he's violating them. Maybe because he didn't, but now he knows, and still, nothing's changed. Last night, he came home late at around 10 p.m. I wasn't thrilled with that because he knew the rules, but he said that he was an adult and I shouldn't be policing him. But it's not about that. It's about the fact that he's repeatedly disrespected the homeowner and the rules. So I told him this. You need to respect the rules, which are being home at 8, not eating at random times, and not using your electronics. Just like my kids aren't allowed when the family is gathered to spend time together. He ranted about how he wasn't a child, my child, and called me unreasonable to treat him this way just because he lives under my roof. I told him it's not hard to show respect, really, but my wife went off, asking what was wrong with me to be giving Sean, who's still grieving, ultimatums, treating him like a child. I explained to her that I'm just making sure the kids won't be influenced by her brother's reckless behavior, and she laughed, asking if I think Sean being on his phone was reckless, but that's besides the point. She called me a control freak and told me to get off her brother's back and leave him alone. I replied that she's just saying this because he's her brother, but she said I overstepped and should back off and stop trying to control her adult brother. I asked her if she was happy with him coming home late, and she said she was sick of arguing, then went upstairs. So, am I the butthole here? Yes, mate. You're trying to control a grieving 20-year-old who's just lost his mum. That is crazy. Why on earth should a 20-year-old have a curfew and have his eating times controlled? Also, you're not even related to the guy. Yeah, he's living under your roof and having respect is an important thing for the homeowner, but going on your phone and eating at different times and staying out to 10 o'clock is not disrespectful. That's just him doing what he wants to do. That's not affecting your life at all, I'm sorry. That's just weird. Like, I actually feel bad for your wife and kids. You're like an overbearing parent, but towards an adult that isn't your kid. It's very strange. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of r/am I the butthole. As always, please get your comments in down below. I want to hear your thoughts on all 5 of these posts. Was OP the butthole, or was somebody else in the story the butthole? Or, you know, was it just funny? Or just comment something random. I don't really mind. I want to go through and read all your comments as I always do. So yeah, get them down below and I'll heart some of my favorites. If you're new to the channel, hit this button, subscribe. If you want to see more from me right away, check this video out. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow with a brand new video.